Colombia is a sovereign state largely situated in the northwest of South America, with territories in Central America. The official name of Colombia is the Republic of Colombia and is derived from the last name of explorer Christopher Columbus. Welcome to our animated show of history. This episode presents A Brief History of Colombia. The present territory of Colombia was a corridor of early human migration from Mesoamerica and the Caribbean to the Andes and Amazon basin. Indigenous people inhabited the territory that is now Colombia by 12,500 BCE. Between 5000 and 1000 BCE, hunter-gatherer tribes transitioned to agrarian societies, fixed settlements were established, and pottery appeared. The territory that became Colombia was first visited by Europeans when the first expedition of Alonso de Ojeda arrived at the Cabo de la Vela in 1499. The Spanish made several attempts to settle along the north coast of today's Colombia in the early 16th century, but their first permanent settlement, at Santa Marta, was not established until 1525. In 1533, Pedro de Heredia founded Cartagena, the principal trade center on the Colombian coast. Spanish conquistador Gonzalo Jiménez de Quesada led an expedition to the interior in April 1536 and christened the districts through which he passed New Kingdom of Granada. 2 years later, he founded provisionally its capital near the Muisca Cacicasco of Bacatá and named it Santa Fe. The conquistadors made frequent alliances with the enemies of different indigenous communities. Indigenous peoples in New Granada experienced a decline in population due to conquest, as well as Eurasian diseases. With the risk that land was deserted, the Spanish crown sold properties to all persons interested in colonized territories, creating large farms and possession of mines. In 1542, the region of New Granada, along with all other Spanish possessions in South America, became part of the Viceroyalty of Peru, with its capital at Lima. Later, New Granada became the Capitanecy General of New Granada within the Viceroyalty. The institution of the Spanish Royal Audiencia in Bogotá gave that city the status of capital of New Granada, which comprised in large part what is now the territory of Colombia. Early 18th century, the Viceroyalty of New Granada was originally created, and then it was temporarily removed, to finally be re-established in 1739. The Viceroyalty had Santa Fe de Bogotá as its capital. Bogotá became one of the principal administrative centers of the Spanish possessions in the New World, along with Lima and Mexico City. Since the beginning of the periods of conquest and colonization, there were several rebel movements against Spanish rule, but most were either crushed or remained too weak to change the overall situation. The last one that sought outright independence from Spain sprang up around 1810 and culminated in the Colombian Declaration of Independence, issued on the 20th of July, 1810, a day which is now celebrated as the nation's Independence Day. A movement was initiated by Antonio Nariño, who opposed Spanish centralism and led the opposition against the Viceroyalty. Cartagena became independent. In 1811, the United Provinces of New Granada were proclaimed, headed by Camilo Torres Tenorio. The emergence of two district ideological currents among the patriots gave rise to a period of instability. Shortly after the Napoleonic Wars ended, Ferdinand VII, restored to the throne in Spain, unexpectedly decided to send military forces to retake most of northern South America. The Viceroyalty was restored under the command of Juan Sámano. The retribution stoked renewed rebellion, which, combined with a weakened Spain, made possible by a successful rebellion led by the Venezuelan-born Simón Bolívar, who finally proclaimed independence in 1819. The pro-Spanish resistance was defeated in 1822 in the present territory of Colombia. Colombia was the first constitutional government in South America, and the liberal and conservative parties, founded in the mid-19th century, are two of the oldest surviving political parties in the Americas. Slavery was abolished in the country in 1851. In 1863, the name of the republic was changed officially to United States of Colombia, and later the country adopted its present name, Republic of Colombia. Internal divisions remained between the bipartisan political forces, occasionally igniting very bloody civil wars, the most significant being the Thousand Days War. The Thousand Days War cost an estimated 100,000 lives, and up to 300,000 people died during La Violencia in 1940s and 50s, a bipartisan confrontation which erupted after the assassination of liberal popular candidate Jorge Eliezer Gaitán. A military coup in 1953 toppled the right-wing government of conservative Laureano Gómez and brought General Gustavo Rojas to power. Initially, Rojas enjoyed considerable popular support, due largely to his success in reducing La Violencia. When he did not restore democratic rule and occasionally engaged in open repression, however, he was overthrown by the military a few years later with the backing of both political parties, and a provisional government was installed. In the same year, the Declaration of Sitges proposed a national front, whereby the liberal and conservative parties would govern jointly. The National Front ended La Violencia, and its administration attempted to institute far-reaching social and economic reforms in cooperation with the Alliance for Progress. In the 1960s, left-wing guerrillas began operating in Colombia. Then, in the 1970s, cocaine production in Colombia increased, and it continued to increase in the 1980s. The drug trade led to a great deal of violence. Meanwhile, in the early 1980s, Colombia was hit by a severe recession. In the early 21st century, the situation in Colombia improved. Violence in Colombia declined after 2002. Furthermore, the Colombian economy grew rapidly and poverty and unemployment declined. Today, the population of Colombia is 47 million. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel for new videos updated daily.